Hello, guys, and welcome to the Marigold Standard, your weekly audio source of all things Dream Star Fighting Marigold. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by Mr. Matt Turner. Matt Turner in audio form again, but I can assure you he is looking dapper as always. Matt Turner, how are you, good sir?
I'm good, brother. Yeah, I showed Rob my current surroundings as it's all sorts of crazy windy over here in northeastern Pennsylvania. But no, brother, I'm doing fantastic. You're looking dapper. We almost have, just to give a hint, me and Rob almost have the same hairdo today. Almost have the same hairdo, and by that I mean handsome. I mean handsome. I'm good, brother. I'm excited. It seems like the last two Marigold shows we did, I think there were 4 shows to review and a Korakuen to preview. So it seems like more of the same from the fantastic pro wrestling company that is Marigold. But no, I'm great, man. How's everything on your neck of the woods?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I mentioned this on the alternate commentary yesterday. I will be glad to see the back of tournament season, not because it hasn't been tremendous, but over the last weekend we had 4 shows from Stardom and 3 shows from Marigold plus another one on the 7th, and we've had another 3 Stardom shows this weekend. So it's been an endeavor to try and review them all, to try and get the show reports up. I'm almost up to date with the Marigold ones. I have now got the 3 Stardom ones to do before. I've basically got 24 hours to watch the 3 Stardom shows before we do that tomorrow for the Stardom cast. So busy, busy, busy. I do also have a job as well. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it for you guys. I am going to do it for you guys. But yes, can't complain apart from that. As I mentioned, I played my first game of football since the broken ribs, and all was good. All was good. One guy tried to start a fight with me because apparently I just have a face that says headbutt me. I don't know why. I'll let you guys be the judge of whether that's true. But yeah, other than that, all good, my friend. How was Catch Camp? I believe that you were in the presence of TNA alum.
Yeah, I was not the only Ring of Honor wrestler there. I was stretching, and I believe it or not, Rob, I get there early. I'm sure it's a shock to you.
Shot.
I get
Not
there
you,
early.
Matt.
I
No.
I get there early, and I'm stretching, trying to warm up my. Even though we do conditioning drills to start, which some of them are absolutely insane in the best way possible, but I'm stretching, and all of a sudden I look out the window and I'm like, that guy looks really familiar. That's about to walk in. I was like, wow, this is. I go to these seasonal camps all the time. Maybe it's somebody that I met before. So I'm stretching. I'm talking to the one guy who owns a gym in the Baltimore area. His name's Randy. Great guy. He always helps me out a lot with a lot of techniques. And all of a sudden, I look up. I'm like, former Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion Davey Richards. So I was like, "Hey man," he looks at me and like I don't think he knows my name as Matt Turner, but he's like, "I know that guy from somewhere. Like I know him from somewhere." So I was like, "Hey, how's everything?" He's like, "Oh, good. How's everything with you?" So on and so forth, and we wind up pairing with one of the other students. Davey just happened to walk by. He's like, "Can I jump in with you?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I got to roll with one half of the American Wolves, one of my favorite tag teams over the last 15 or 20 years, and former Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, and one Davey Richards. And he couldn't have been nicer. Just really soft spoken, quiet guy. Was really helping everybody out, as far as certain technique goes in the little area that I was in. But he was only there for one day. He was only there for the one day, and then I don't know if he had to work an indie show somewhere in the New Jersey or Philly area. But no, it was nice seeing him and knowing I was not the only pro wrestler that was there. But I haven't seen Davey in a few years. Just a super, super nice guy and super helpful on the one day that he was at the catch camp. But other than that, catch camp was brutal as always, my friend. I woke up yesterday morning and I had trouble walking down the stairs because I was so sore. Literally the point, as we're recording this, it's Tuesday. So catch camp was 2 days ago. As I'm like backing up in my car, I can't turn my neck all the way just
Yes.
yet. because of all the neck bridges and all the throws that we did. And you've been in my car before, Rob, so you
Mhm.
know that I have the fancy backup camera, and thank God for that, because I might have hit a tree or two or a shopping cart if it wasn't for that, because my neck is so sore. And I know what I'm going to get. I know when I go there, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be fun, but damn howdy, it is going to be rewarding, and it sure was. Catch camp was always terrific, brother.
I mean, I know you are being oh so modest when you say that Davey Richards probably had an independent show to run on the Sunday. I personally think he'd had one session of rolling around with Matt Turner, and that was just enough. He was like, "Do you know what? No, I can't do this anymore. This guy, too strong, too athletic." I think that was it, Matt. I think you scared off the American Wolf, Davey Richards, personally.
We usually don't disagree, but I'm going to 100% disagree with you on that one, because yeah, if we rolled around for real, I'm sure he would have crushed me. But again, he was super nice and super helpful.
He's a muscly dude, is Davey Richards. Ladies and gentlemen, so we've sort of put this episode off, not intentionally, but it's actually worked out quite well, because today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking back at the Marigold Fantastic Adventure shows from the 2nd of November, both afternoon and evening shows. The show from Nagoya on the 4th, which was live, and then the show from the 7th in Yokohama City in Kanagawa. We're going to look at all of those. We're also going to preview the upcoming Korakuen show, which, as we record, it's the 12th. That is when this episode will drop. So the show at Korakuen is going to be on the 14th. There's obviously been huge changes there. We're going to go through all the news. I am going to say now that there is a hell of a lot of news coming out of Stardom and Marigold. I am just going to focus on the Marigold news today, because between everything else we've got to talk about, this podcast could be about 4.5 hours. So I want to try and keep it as svelte as possible. So the Stardom news, I will keep for the Stardom cast, which we'll be recording tomorrow. The Marigold news, we will go through now. So with that in mind, I suppose we should talk really about that first big bit of news, and that is that the main event, as it was announced, of the Korakuen Hall show on the 14th of November was initially, as we all know, supposed to be Sari versus Nanae Takahashi for the Marigold World Championship. In the show that we are going to be looking at very shortly, from the 2nd in Sapporo, Nanae took a Uranagi from Sari and landed brutally high on her neck. And it was very apparent very quickly that people knew something wasn't right. Utami especially looked very, very, very concerned. Nanae is a badass, cut a promo without getting up, was flipping Sari the double bird. Thought that was brilliant. Unfortunately, it was announced. I think they were hoping that Nanae would be fit for November the 14th in Korakuen. Unfortunately, they did have a press conference where Nanae is still in a brace. It was announced that she would not be fit for that show. So the scheduled title match between her and Sari is now going to be December the 13th at Shinjuku Face. The injury that Nanae has is something called an erector spinae injury, or erector spinae. I might be mispronouncing that. I'm really sorry. Basically, it's a group of muscles connecting the skull to the sacrum, and it helps to stabilize and extend the spine. So, unfortunately, Nanae has been withdrawn from the Korakuen Hall show. It does mean we're not getting a red belt defense on that card. However, we are going to talk in a moment about the matches that we do have ready for that Korakuen Hall show. First things first, both of us, both me and Matt, want to extend our well wishes to Nanae Takahashi. It was a horrendous bump, and with Nanae's sort of timetable at the moment to be ready for December the 13th, I think she's very lucky, because it did look very, very nasty. But we want to see her in the ring as soon as possible. And obviously, it's never easy for the wrestler that's delivered that move. So obviously, we hope Sari's okay as well. It just, unfortunately, it happens in wrestling, stuff like that. I don't think anyone was being unsafe. I think it just happens. And it does give an opportunity as well to Naoya Ishikawa, which we're going to talk about very, very shortly. But Matt, obviously, huge commiserations to Nanae, and we hope that, fingers crossed, she is badder than ever in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're put it 100% right, partner. It's pro wrestling. Accidents happen all the time. I mean, we've seen Sari deliver those explode or the Uranagi so many times, and especially the one onto Mayu back at All Star Grand Queendom, and the one that she did Veni in that tag match with Chihiro Hashimoto, where Sari teamed up with Mayu. Those are some crazy high angles. It's just you just never know when somebody's going to land, or somebody like Nanae Takahashi, who she's in her mid-40s. She has a lot of wear and tear on her body for that physical style that she's been putting on, for our entertainment. So, it could have been something, just where the bumps are kind of adding up, as we kind of say, your bump card only has so many tickets. And, she took a nasty one there from Sari. So, yeah, absolutely. You do want to make sure that Nana is okay. And I knew going into watching that match that the injury did happen. So I was nice to see that actually the match wind up finishing. They wind up going to a little bit of a finishing stretch, and Nana was able to move a little bit and added towards, and maybe even added a little bit toward the match that they're going to have now instead of this week, the second week of December, and Shinjuku face that she throws Sari the double birds. So it just goes to show you just what a badass that she is, that there she is holding on to her neck, not sharing what's wrong, but knowing there's something that's wrong, but yet she's still, playing the game. The show must go on. She said, like, no, let me try to do something where I can maybe add towards our match. So just an absolute pro that Nane is. So again, yes, accidents do happen. We do hope that Nane is okay and she is fit to go for that match coming up now in about 1 month's time. But yeah, like I said, accidents happen. And that's why I always say, to quote the late, great Roddy Piper, anybody that answers the bell, I have the ultimate respect for. So you never know when an injury is going to happen. Again, on a move that Sari has done hundreds and hundreds of times. It's just sometimes that accidents do happen in pro wrestling. And you're absolutely right. Sari was not being careless by any stretch of the imagination. There was just, something just happened and it went wrong. Didn't go the way that it wanted to. Again, it could have actually ended up a lot worse. Thank God that it didn't. And it looks like Nane is going to be on the mend and back in the ring in about 4 or 5 weeks' time, partner.
And she is on her feet and walking about, and I think that's the most important thing with spinal injuries. There's so many small things that could go wrong, and the fact that she is on her feet walking. Obviously, she was on her feet at the press conference. We saw her at the show on the 7th as well, doing the introductions with Chika Goto. So fingers crossed. Obviously, sounds like a rather nasty injury. Thank goodness that it's not more serious. And I think as well, you mentioned the Uranagi that Sari delivered to the likes of Mayu Iwatani and Veni. Nanae Takahashi is a lot bigger than both Mayu and Veni. And I don't know if it was just a case of, didn't quite get the elevation. Doesn't matter. Fingers crossed, Nanae is all right. And that is the main thing. Moving on and sort of piggybacking onto that, we do have now the full amended card for Korakuen Hall. As I already mentioned, we are not going to be having that red belt match. That is going to be saved for December the 13th. We have, though, got a match to replace, and we're going to be talking about that very shortly. So the full card, as it is announced currently, is the Marigold United National Championship match. Miko Ueno, the champion, is going to be defending against Natsumi Shozuki. The Marigold Twin Star Championships are on the line. Mirai and Mai Sakurai, the champions, defending against Utami Hayashishita and Koki Amare. A special passion injection match, and I really quite like this replacement. It's not as blockbuster, obviously, but I do like this. Sari versus Nao Ishikawa. A special passion injection match, as I mentioned. I think that could be really good, especially if Nanae is ringside. I think that could be really good. We've then got the undercard, Bozilla and Myla Grace versus Misa Matsui and Komomo Minami. Celine Flora, Victoria Yuzuki and Kizuna Tanaka versus Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki. Chiaki's been missing from all 4 of these shows, by the way. Ria Sato versus Minami Yuki. And then Hummingbird versus Naho Yamada. Now, Matt, I think it's fair to say that this card doesn't quite have the punch of the previous Korakuen Hall show that obviously had Sari versus Bozilla. But I would still argue this is a very strong card. That United National Championship match, is worth pointing out, that is only for the United National Championship, not Natsumi Shozuki's Superfly Championship. That match is going to be great. We've seen what Miko Ano and Natsumi Shozuki can do together. They are in the main event as it is currently listed. If they're given that main event bow, I can't wait to see what Natsumi Shozuki throws at it. That Twin Star Championships match, so much talent in that. And obviously throughout these 4 shows that we're going to be reviewing, we've seen a lot of build up to this match, especially between Mai Sakurai and Koki Amare. So that I'm very excited for. And as I mentioned before, what an opportunity for Nao Ishikawa. She's not going to win. She's going to get absolutely battered by Sari. But again, what an opportunity. Now, who is one of the most over people not called Utami or Mirai, really good opportunity in Korakuen Hall, Matt, to really sort of not avenge Nanae, but certainly wrestle in her honor.
Yeah, this is a good replacement for Nanae not being there, obviously, because of the injury we just spoke of. But this is good, quick thinking on your feet from Marigold, because you're absolutely right. Now Ishikawa, we love her. She's terrific. She's so endearing with the crowd. She's so over with the crowd, especially in Korakuen Hall. So you made mention how she's probably going to get stomped in pretty well by the red belt champion Sari. That's kind of her charm, right? That's kind of now Ishikawa's charm and her firing up and, her fighting spirit and Sari's ability to kind of bump and feed for now Ishikawa in this match, and to give now enough where they're going to bring the Korakuen Hall crowd up hot. Again, we've seen a lot of these wrestlers wrestle in Korakuen Hall before, the Utamis, the Mirais, the Nanaes, because of our background in stardom. So you take a look in the 7 months that Marigold has been a pro wrestling company, with the exception of probably an Utami and a Julia. Obviously, Julia's not there anymore. With the exception of those two, probably Chikagoto and now Ishikawa are the 2 most over wrestlers in Korakuen Hall. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to receive now Ishikawa in this match. I know they're going to have a lot of, lack of a better term, the fan base is going to have a lot of passion for now Ishikawa in this match. And I think there's going to be 1 or 2 close near falls that I think the crowd is really, really going to bite on it to give now that energy. So I'm super excited for the match. I think we all know the result, but I cannot wait to hear the crowd response in what's probably now Ishikawa's biggest match that she's ever had, in my opinion. Korakuen Hall against a world-class wrestler in Sari. She's the red belt champion. I know it's not for the title, but you're literally, had to replace this match on like 7 to 8 days notice. So that's going to be excellent. The co-main event, as it's being billed, the Twin Star Tag Championship, what a lot of star power in that match. Tommy's probably your number 1 star. And then we kind of flip back and forth on who the number 2 or 3 star is. Is it Mai Sakurai or is it Mirai? Again, that's debatable. So you have maybe your top 3 stars there. And again, I'm not going to count Sari because she's technically a freelancer, right? So you probably have your top 3 stars there. And then you have Koki Amare, who this time next year, there's a good possibility she might be, the number 1 star right next to Utami Hayashishita, because they're doing a great job getting her out in the public eye, and she's doing a great job having terrific matches. So that is a star-studded tag team championship match in Korakuen Hall. And then what's building as that main event, that Miko Ano versus Natsumi Shozuki match. I'm super excited for it. Natsumi Shozuki just completely, knocks my socks off every time that she's wrestled. She's so fast. She's so accurate. Her timing, her selling, everything she does in the ring makes meaning. And again, Miko Ano, probably one of my new favorite wrestlers that I've never seen wrestle before up until Marigold started back in the spring. So, again, it's another stacked Korakuen Hall show, especially with those last 3 matches. I'm super excited to watch it, partner.
Yeah, obviously we'll preview this show in a little bit more detail towards the end of the show. There's a couple of interesting matchups that I'm going to talk about, especially once you get to those title defenses, as to who is going to be defending before First Stream, because we are coming up to First Stream. And obviously, we've got one more Korakuen after this on Boxing Day, the 26th of December. We'll talk a little bit about the remainder of that card a little bit later. Talking about Korakuen Hall shows, Marigold have announced their post-Christmas tour. It's going to be New Year's Golden Garden Tour, which I must admit, as far as names go, that's a pretty sensational name. I'm a fan of that. So obviously this starts with Marigold First Streams. We mentioned Ward City Gym, January the 3rd, 2:30 p.m. The rest of the tour then starts on January 11th, Saturday, opening in Osaka 176 box. I'm just going to read you very, very quickly the rest of those dates. January 12th in KBS Hall. January 13th, which is a national holiday in Japan, at Chunichi Hall. January 19th, Sunday, Korakuen Hall, 11:30 a.m. That's your first 2025 Korakuen for Marigold. January 25th, then Yokohama Radiant Hall. January 26th, Shinkiba First Ring, and then we're into February 7th, which is a Friday, Shinjuku Face. February 11th, they are back at Chunichi Hall, and that's another national holiday in Japan. February the 14th, Valentine's Day, Sendai Pit has got Marigold there. February 16th in Hodogaya Ward Public Hall, which is where they ran the show on the 7th. And I'm very interested to see what attendance they pull into that show. February 20th, another Thursday then, is your Korakuen Hall for February. And then February 22nd, Osaka 176 box. So 1, 2, 3, there's 6 shows there in February, not including the pay-per-view. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows in January. It's going to be calming down, at least initially, Matt, and I'm here for it. I am here for the calm post-Christmas, especially after Wrestle Kingdom week, because that's going to be absolute carnage.
It's kind of funny because I just submitted my time off for the holidays. As you know, Rob, and anybody that's listened to this show a long time, I'm the biggest fan of Christmas ever. I mean, I just love Christmas. Give me the eggnog, give me Mariah Carey, give me all the Christmas songs, give me the Charlie Brown Christmas. So I set all that time up. As you know, I'm an absolute workaholic in more ways than one. And I'm like, okay, I have like 14 days off, for my Christmas break. And I think I'm able to sleep in like 3 or 4 days because there's so much wrestling between Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty, what's going on with Stardom, what's going on with Marigold, and a lot of this stuff I like to watch live. So it's like, yeah, I'm off like 14 days, but I think 10, 11 days of my holiday break, I'm going to be getting up between 2 and 3 a.m. And by no means am I complaining, brother. By no means am I complaining. There's a lot of great stuff. So for me, you're taking on, again, my favorite time of the year because I love just being with family and just what Christmas and the Christmas spirit means. And then you're adding on great wrestling. So this is going to be a great holiday season for me, but it is going to be nice that once January hits, that we get a little bit of a breather, my man. We get a little bit of a breather, and maybe, fingers crossed, Rob, an extra 15, 20 minutes of sleep.
Fingers crossed. Maybe. We also have announced from Marigold that 3 rookies have passed the protest, and they will be introduced at Korakuen Hall on the 14th of November. So there was some stuff put out on Marigold's Twitter page on Saturday the 9th of November that they'd had a day where they'd held an audition, and that 3 trainees had passed their protest. They have now been named as Seiri Yamaoka, who, of course, we already know. We already know is going to be debuting at First Stream, 17 years old, amateur wrestling experience. I know that Marigold, very, very, very excited for her. And as a result, so am I. I am very, very excited for that. We also have Ryoko Sakamura and Nagisa Takibana. All 3 of those have passed their protests. All 3 of them will be in attendance at Korakuen Hall. Obviously, we know Seiri Yamaoka, like I mentioned. Ryoko Sakamura, you may remember, was a part of Julia's farewell gauntlet at Shinkiba. Nagisa Takibana, for me, is a complete unknown, but I am very, very excited for this. The other 2, obviously we know Yamaoka is going to be debuting at the pay-per-view in January. We have no debut dates for Takibana or Sakimura yet, but I am assuming we will have a few more details in regards to that when they take to the microphone at Korakuen Hall, Matt.
Yeah, again, more rookies coming into Marigold. They're doing a great job. Rossi's doing a great job building this roster around who he was able to take from Stardom. Not take from Stardom, but who went with him from Stardom, and then taking the actress girls, taking a couple of the different wrestlers. I'm blown away by what I've seen from Hummingbird, and we'll get into it on these 4 shows we're going to review. And now he's adding in the rookies. We've seen great stuff from Kizuna Tanaka. Rhea Sato's really one that's coming up. So it's nice to see that we're going to have 3 more rookies coming into this already stacked roster. And again, what are these rookies going to be doing after they start wrestling, after they have debuted? They're going to be in the rings with the great wrestlers and learning from the Nanaes, the Utamis, the Mirais, the Mai Sakurais, not only in the ring, but in the dojo and as well before the show. I'm sure Rasi Ogawa, who's seen it all and has done it all, can point out little pointers that can help this roster out. So we're seeing the roster flushed out, but in a different way, going through the old school dojo, which I really, really enjoy. And Rob, real quick, before I forget, because I will forget, I know, and again, folks, we're going to try to get this podcast wrapped up in around 2 hours because Rob has 3 Stardom shows to watch. The Korakuen Hall show starts out with an exhibition match with the new Stardom rookie and Milano Collection AT. I know you're gonna be pressed for time, but if you do have time, watch it, because that rookie, I was completely blown away by what that rookie over at Stardom can do. It just triggered. Once we talked about rookies in Marigold, I knew there was something I had to tell you, and that's it, because you'll be blown. And we'll talk about that tomorrow on the Stardom. I'll record the Stardom cast. But yeah, this is going to be great. Again, 3 new rookies coming in, and the fact that Marigold is running 2 to 3 shows every week, more reps with the proper talent, with the right wrestlers and the right coaches. You're going to be seeing these wrestlers develop rather fastly, like we've already seen with this new, with the crop of rookies that Marigold already has.
Yeah, I think it's the main sort of constructive criticism, or the main feedback that I often see about Marigold, is that their roster is quite thin. So having these rookies to round it out and sort of seeing them progress through Marigold, because actually looking at their roster, they have got quite a few aging competitors. You've obviously got Nanae, who's 48, has already said she wants a reduced workload, and I do wonder how much this injury is going to contribute to that. We've then got Natsumi Shozuki, who I believe is 35, Mika Wano, who is in her 30s, Mai Sakurai, who's in her 30s as well. So obviously, dependent on when they retire, that's another sort of gap in Marigold. So you need to start nurturing these younger talents. And I think Marigold are doing that very well. I'm looking forward to seeing these 3 come in as well. Final bit of news then. And Koki Amore has got her first ever bit of singles silverware. So yesterday, Monday, the 11th of November, Pro Wrestling Noah ran their Monday Magic 3 show in Shinjuku Face. And sort of one of the big things that they were advertising for the show was the crowning of the inaugural Global Honored Crown Women's Champion, the GHC Women's Champion, in a battle royale. And of course, Koki Amore stood tall at the end to become the historic first champion. Other members of that battle royale were Koki, Utami Hayashishita, Bozilla, Mika Wano, Miyuki Takase, Chigusa Nagao, Takumi Aroha, Sadie Gibbs, Nightshade, The Great Sequoia, and you. And of course, Koki Amore won the match, last eliminating The Great Sequoia. What a fantastic rub for Koki Amore to become the first GHC Women's Champion. And honestly, it's just reward for some fantastic endeavor that she's shown on some of these Marigold shows, Matt.
You can now put Koki Amore in the same sentence as the legendary Mitsuharu Misawa, because obviously Misawa was the first GHC champion for Pro Wrestling Noah, and now you have Koki Amore. And I mean, what a great honor that is, because Misawa, if I had to give my all-time favorite Japanese wrestler, it would probably be him. Different answer, a different day, different answer. But when push comes to shove, I'd have to say Misawa. but you can, I mean, Masawa's the first ever men's champion. Now Koki Hamare, the first ever GHC women's champion, which is long. It was long overdue for that company to have a women's division. And obviously with Marigold coming in, they're helping each other out, which is great to see. And it's great to see other wrestlers involved in this battle royal that do not wrestle full time for Marigold. Would I love to see Koki Hamare's first or V1, maybe at First Dream versus Takumi Iroha? Yes, please. Maybe that's the way to go about it. Because again, you need to flush out that card. We know more than likely we're getting Sari versus Utami. We've been fantasy booking that card for the better part of the last 4 or 5 weeks, brother. I'm going to fantasy book that card even more. Give us Koki Amare versus Takumi Iroha for the GHC, championship. Maybe the V1, you do it there. But biggest congratulations to Koki Amare. I mean, just what an absolute run she's been on the last 2 or 3 months. Just how well she's getting over with the crowd, how great her matches are. The fact that she got, came down to almost a playoff with her and Utami to win the Dream Star, the Dream Bracket and the Dream Star Grand Prix, has having great matches. She's in a semi-main event match in Korakuen Hall just coming up here in just a few days' time. And what a better way to go into that match in Korakuen Hall than with some momentum by becoming the first ever GHC Pro Wrestling Noah Women's Champion. So yeah, biggest congratulations to her.
Yeah, and of course, Noah have got that big show coming up on the 1st of January as well, which sees Shinsuke Nakamura making his return to Pro Wrestling Noah as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a title defense there for Koki. But again, getting Koki Amare in front of more people is certainly only a good thing. Let's move on then. As I said, quite a lot of news there, and we've pretty much just powered through it. So you can go and check out the stardomcast.com for all of that news, for any other bits that you have missed or more information in regards to those articles. Let's delve headlong then into night number 9 of the Marigold Fantastic 2024, Fantastic Adventure, should I say, 2024 tour. This was the afternoon show from Hokkaido, which marks the first time that Marigold have run Hokkaido and have run this specific venue. It drew an attendance of 286, which, aside from Stardom's attendances when they ran the Sapporo World and Sapporo Wonder shows, where they drew 700 apiece, only Noah have managed to draw 400. So it's not a high drawing venue. And this Marigold show does outdraw all 3 of Big Japan's shows that they've run this year. I was really intrigued actually to see how this Marigold show stacked up against the Sendai Girls show, which ran early in October when it was BMI 2000 versus Team 200 kg in the main event. But I can't seem to find any record of the attendance there. So altogether, not a bad attendance. There's not really a great metric to compare it to, but that's where we are. In terms of results, they are as follows. Singles match, Kimomo Minami versus Naho Yamada ended in a time limit draw, 10 minutes. In a 3-way match, Myla Grace defeated Rhea Saito and Nao Ishikawa, pinning Rhea Saito with the Sky Twister press in 11 minutes and 14 seconds. Tag team match, Hummingbird and Natsumi Shozuki went to a time limit draw, 15-minute time limit draw against Victoria Yuzuki and Misa Matsui. In a tag team match, Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki defeated Sari and Kizuna Tanaka. Bozilla pinning Tanaka with the driller hole pile driver in 11 minutes and 14 seconds. And then in your main event, 6-woman tag team action, the team of Utami Hayashishita, Koki Amare, and Miko Ano defeated the team of Nanae Takahashi, Mirai, and Mai Sakurai. Koki Amare pinning Mai Sakurai with the Amethyst Butterfly in 14 minutes and 43 seconds. So let's delve straight into this, Matt, because I know that you are very excited to talk about this match. So all in all, I thought this card was a solid card, and I will say that the I think it was I think it was given the tagline "Superfly the Best." The tag team match with Misa Matsui, Victoria Yuzuki Hummingbird, and Natsumi Shozuki, which I really liked. That match completely understand the necessary time limit draw there. Completely understand that, and it's a really good match. This one left me scratching my head a little bit, Matt. I understand that obviously Kimomo Minami, as we've mentioned on this podcast, really progressing very, very well. I think Naho Yamada is doing very well as well. I think she has a very bright future in Marigold, but I do feel like you could have given one or other the victory without harming their momentum moving forward.
There is no need for this to go to a time limit draw. And I make mention all the time, you need to start your shows off with a hot match. And this was a good match. I actually had a 3.25 stars. I enjoyed it. And I enjoy both these wrestlers. Again, Naho Yamada is somebody we've only seen a handful of matches in Marigold. And I think she's terrific. And I like the gimmick she sings herself to the ring. She's somebody completely different than anybody on this roster, which is really good. She's able to separate herself from anybody on this roster before she even enters their ring, which is a good thing. 10-minute time limit draw, and then match number 3, you're doing a time limit draw. Again, you want to start your shows off with a hot match. It was a good match when the bell rang at 10 minutes. Even before, when they're counting down to like 1 minute left, the crowd just died. The crowd just died, and it never. They got the crowd back a little bit in some of these matches. It really didn't recover into the main event. And again, you're giving a time limit draw on your opening match between essentially two rookies. Didn't make any sense whatsoever. And people are just like, it's 2024. People don't want to see time limit draws all the time. Now, the certain ones, they make sense. Yes, absolutely. I completely understand. But it's like you're starting your match off with a time limit draw. That to me just didn't make any sense. You're absolutely right. They could have given a win to either one of these. It wouldn't have mattered because I think ultimately this show is going to be remembered for that fantastic main event. And ultimately, they really had to work to get the crowd involved into that main event because it was just like, okay, here we go again. Again, I got no problem with time limit draws when they make sense. This one to me was, you're absolutely right, partners. Scratching my head. This one made no sense, especially to start your show out.
If I could play devil's advocate just for a moment before we move on, I was thinking about this. And I know that a lot of Stardom's early shows, because they had a slightly thinner roster, they did have a fair amount of time limit draws. Now, also, you could argue that it's a testament to Kimomo Minami's development. The fact that Naho Yamada is, she has more experience. I think is a more developed wrestler than Kimomo Minami because of her in-ring experience. And the fact that Kimomo Minami is able to take this to a 10-minute time limit draw is commenting on her development as opposed to, it just being a time limit draw for the sake of it. I do get that though. And I do agree. I don't think it needed to go to a time limit draw, but I think if you look at it from the standpoint of Kimomo Minami is improving. She is getting better. She is able now to hang with the likes of a Naho Yamada. Obviously, we saw throughout the tour that she wasn't able to hang with the likes of a Myla Grace or anything like that. But this is a little bit of progress. So, and I think it's
Rob.
again,
I don't mean to cut you out, but I have to go for just 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I like to think that that's why they have done this. But again, I might just be being too positive. We move on then to match number 2, which was a 3-way now Ishikawa, Ryo Saito, and Myla Grace. And I did say, considering she is still without a pinfall victory, she does now have her own baseball jersey, which I was a big fan of. And to be honest, should they bring them to Vegas? It might be one I invest in because it does look very, very good. She does try some tandem offense with her on again, off again tag team partner, Myla Grace. Of course, it all goes to pot because that's what happens. But for me, now Ishikawa's comedic relief is the linchpin of everything in this match. I think she's absolutely tremendous the way that she's able to captivate an audience. I think she did really well. As Matt mentioned, it was a really quiet crowd following that first match. And I think it went some way to bringing a little bit of that heat back. Again, Ishikawa for me, definitely the MVP. Ultimately, it's Myla Grace getting the victory with that as of yet unnamed Sky Twister press variation that she has actually put on social media that she is looking for names for it. So if you're thinking of names, I'd like to hear them in the comments. I have personally put forward Saving Grace. But again, we'll see. I know that Amazing Grace was another one, but we'll see. We'll see what she chooses for that. Again, Ishikawa frustrated without a win. And I must admit, at this point, I was very much of the opinion that whoever, because at this point the Korakuen Korakuen card hadn't been announced. I was very much of the opinion of right, she's going to get that first win at Korakuen. And I know that me and Matt are going to talk about a little bit later on about Nao's match at Nagoya and the sort of booking of that. And I do wonder if the evening show, which we're going to talk about, which had Nanae's injury on it, I do wonder if that sort of forced Marigold's hand into giving Nao that first victory because they were putting Nao in this hot angle with Sari heading into Korakuen. So again, it's just something to consider. We move on, and that is to Superfly the Best, which is a fantastic tagline for these wrestlers. One of the sad things about this, though, it's great to see Hummingbird back in the ring for a start. Obviously, this show marks her return after she was unfortunately withdrawn from the Shinkiba shows last weekend because of the bump that she took at Korakuen Hall.
Sorry, folks, I'm back. I apologize. It's been a day. It's a busy day. I'm a busy guy, folks.
It's absolutely fine, Matt. We've looked at the three-way. We're now looking at Superfly the Best. And I was just saying it's great to see Hummingbird back in the ring following that injury or following the precaution following Shinkiba. But one thing that I am quite annoyed about, and considering it's Natsumi Shozuki, shows how annoyed I actually am. We didn't get to hear Hummingbird's fantastically funky music in this. And I was devastated, Matt, because what a tune Hummingbird's theme is.
Yeah, it's something really, really fun. But yeah, she was terrific. She looked great in that Super Flyweight Championship back at Korakuen Hall. Obviously there was the injury that happened, but she was terrific here. I think she fits in so perfectly with this roster, and obviously in this division, tagging with the champion, hanging with somebody like Misa Matsui, and we've seen Victoria Yuzuki can really, really fit that Super Flyweight style pretty much perfectly. And I thought this match was terrific. Again, I had no problem with this one going to the time limit draw. Maybe I would have had Misa Matsui get a win over Hummingbird, considering the fact that you're coming back later in the night for her to have a championship match. So that might have been, if I'm being nitpicky here, that might have been the only thing I would have changed, is maybe give Misa a win here. But regardless, getting these two teams, these four wrestlers, 15 minutes to tell their story, I thought it was brilliant. 3.5 stars. And yes, more from Hummingbird, please, and Marigold, because I think she fits this roster absolutely perfect, brother.
She offers something completely different, especially to the Superfly division where you aren't blessed with an abundance of wrestlers. You've got Misa Matsui, who is very quick. You've got Natsumi Shozuki, who's very aggressive, but you haven't got someone who is outright athletic like Hummingbird is, who, we see lots of little bits of really cool athleticism, and we don't see that from other wrestlers. On the flip side of that, we have sort of two people who Natsumi Shozuki has already beaten for the Superfly Championship. She's then going to wrestle Matsui again in the evening show, but Victoria Yuzuki does still have a claim to that Superfly Championship. She's gone to 2 time limit draws with her in the Dream Star and then for the title. And I think you could see that start to cause a rift in their tag team because they were throwing each other off of pinfalls because they both wanted to pin Natsumi Shozuki for that title. And I think with everything that has happened over these shows that we're going to be talking about, I think it's fair to say that Victoria Yuzuki is one of, if not the next challenger to this Superfly Championship, Matt.
Are you telling me we're going to get a Victoria Yuzuki versus Natsumi Shozuki match, Rob? Is that what you're telling me?
I might be telling you that, yes. On a big stage as well, out towards City Gym. Because if you're going to run it back, it's either going to be Korakuen or at First Dream. So if it was me, I'd hold off till First Dream Maybe have a filler defense in between there. I'd maybe against a Kizuna Tanaka potentially, but yeah, I'd run that back at first stream because we know how good they are together.
Yeah, I'm all for that, brother. I like your card. I like your show. I want to see it.
Thank you very much. I would too. Moving on then, Sari and Kizuna Tanaka versus Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki. I don't think I'm ever going to get bored, Matt, of Bozilla launching people across the ring with her Vader-style body tackle. It's so, especially when you've got someone who is as small as Kizuna Tanaka, it's so impactful and it's so fun to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she's absolutely terrific here. And again, I made mention when you have these younger wrestlers, the best way to get them better is have them in the ring with great wrestlers. And that's exactly what they did with Kizuna Tanaka here. Again, Kizuna Tanaka is very young in her wrestling career, and she's wrestling like she's wrestling 5 or 6 years. And she's teaming with arguably one of the best, not one of, arguably the best wrestler in the world in Sari against a great heel tag team in Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki. And Nagisa's really come on her own since about halfway through the Dream Star and has been nothing but lighting it up. Again, especially in that Korakuen Hall Championship match she had with Miko Ano just a few weeks ago. And they do a great job spotlighting Kizuna Tanaka in this match. I'm sure she learned a lot in this match before the match, during the match, and after the match, and that's how she's going to continue to get better. I thought this was a terrific match. They did a really good job focusing on giving some Bozilla and Sari stuff, kind of like, oh yeah, remember these two had this awesome match in Korakuen Hall not that long ago. They do a great job making Nagisa Nozaki look dominant. And partner, I wouldn't be heartbroken if we saw a Sari versus Nagisa Nozaki match, a singles match, somewhere down the road, because these two absolutely laid into each other. But ultimately, it was just too much Bozilla for the young daughter, Minoru Tanaka, hitting that insane drill hole pile driver for the 3 count. I thought this match was absolutely incredible and a great semi-main event to this show. 3 3/4 stars for me.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. And it was a very simple story to tell. Basically, Tanaka getting absolutely bullied by both Nozaki and Bozilla, Sari having to come in to level the playing field, and then Tanaka basically having to withstand another torrent of brutish chops and strikes and being tossed around the ring. And then, as you mentioned, being hit with that drill a hole pile driver. I wasn't sure what I thought about Nagisa Nozaki when she was first introduced to Marigold. I don't know. I found her quite bland, I think. Similar to what I first felt about Chiaki. And actually, the more I've seen her wrestle and the more she's been integrated into this roster, she's really, really good, really entertaining. That match with Miko Ano was fantastic. Her exchanges with Sari, the limited exchanges we did get, brilliant. And I think when she does get to play that torturous bully heel with the likes of a Kizuna Tanaka, she's so good. And she's proved now that she can do it on that biggest stage. And I do think that we will get her and Chiaki challenging for those Twin Star Championships in December. So keep an eye out for that. And then, Matt Turner, we had the main event of this show, a main event that I know you were very, very impressed with.
Yeah, I thought this was terrific. And again, you look at what you have in this match. You have going into this match, Nanae Takahashi. Well, she still is the #1 contender, but obviously this is before the injury. So you do have your main event players going into Korakuen Hall that you're building up. You know, you obviously have Koki Amare and Utami Hayashisa across the ring from the Twin Star tag champs in Maisaku with Mirai and Sakurai. So you're kind of not teasing that, you're giving a little bit of a taste, a little bit of an appetizer of what we're going to see in Korakuen Hall coming up in just a few days' time. And we get some great stuff with Miko Ano versus Nanae Takahashi. And
yeah,
I made mention. Yeah, I know their stuff was really great, and I made mention of this when we reviewed their fantastic match from the Dream Star Grand Prix, because they went to the old TLD, and I was thinking, boy, I would love to see Miko Ano and Nanae Takahashi have a one-on-one singles match for the pure white belt, with obviously Miko Ano going over, because I think that would really, really help her out and her ascension into the company that is Marigold. But I thought this was terrific. Again, we did a lot of great tag stuff with Utami and Koki Amare versus the tag champs. Miko Ano, she played her role really well. Anytime we get Miko Ano, Mirai in the ring, we're remembered of those 4 fantastic matches they had in the tournament to crown the first ever pure white belt champion, which obviously Miko Ano has. I thought everybody played their role right, rolled their role perfectly, and they did a great job getting Koki Amare over in this match. Ultimately, that's what it was. You built her up in this match. You have Nanae Takahashi, again, a legend that can still go. She doesn't need to be built up, in this match. You have the tag champs. There are the tag champs. They don't need to be built up anymore in this match. You have Utami, the ace of the company. She doesn't need to be built up in this match. You have Miko Ano, the pure white belt champion. You don't need to build her up in this match. This match, again, towards the end, was all about building up Koki Amare. And what happened here? She's the Amethyst Butterfly Splash onto Mai Sakurai for the 3 count. If that happens in Korakuen Hall, we have new tag champs. So that's the idea, the psychology behind the booking of this match was, if we see the same result, we're going to have new champs. And it's always exciting knowing you may see belt switches in pro wrestling. Koki Amare did it once. Will lightning strike twice? We'll find out in Korakuen Hall. This was a great main event to end a solid show. 4 stars for me, partner.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And I think actually those exchanges between Miko Ano and Nanae were fantastic. Those thunderous kicks. And there was a point where Nanae went proper old guard and you could see was just had enough of Miko Ano and just blitzed her with one kick to the chest, and it floored Miko Ano. And it's like, I would love to see this run back because their Dream Star match, because Nanae and Sari was such a good match, people forget how good Nanae and Miko Ano was on that final night. That was another really good match. So I'd be excited and happy to see that run back as well. And again, we seem to be building the feud of these Twin Star Championships around Mai Sakurai and Koki Amare. And that's something that continues throughout these shows that we're going to be talking about. But we get those moments of magic with Mirai and Utami Hayashishita. And I don't know about you, but you can feel the energy in a room change when those 2 wrestlers compete against each other. There's an energy like, right, let's go. And then they start lariating each other. They start shoulder tackling each other. And it just feels like your 2 big stars combining. And that's what we get when those 2 enter the ring. And it's always really good fun. Let's move on then to the evening show. Again, both of these shows were video on demand and was shown on the 4th of November on Wrestle Universe. It is worth pointing out that before this card, Rhea Sato had been withdrawn. So the originally scheduled 3-way that was supposed to be between her, Komomo Minami, and Hummingbird just became a straight singles match between Hummingbird and Komomo Minami. This was also the Natsumi Shozuki Superfly champion defense number 3. She had been the champion for 112 days during this match. In terms of attendance, we are at the same venue in Sapporo Gato Kingdom. It's the second time they've run it. Obviously, the first being the afternoon. It's a slight increase of 294 people. What I did find very interesting is it also makes it the highest non-Korakuen Hall card that Marigold have run since the Dream Star Grand Prix final on the 28th of September in Nagoya, where they drew 685. And I thought that was a really interesting stat. If you take out Korakuen Halls, 294 people is the highest attendance post Dream Star. Obviously, that changes the next show, but we'll have a couple of thoughts about that show as well, or the attendance, should I say. Looking at the results then, singles match, Victoria Yuzuki defeated Naho Yamada with the Yuzu Crush in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. In that aforementioned change singles match, Hummingbird defeated Komomo Minami with the Mad Splash, 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Shades of Unagi Sayaka. Tag team match, Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki defeated the team of Myla Grace and Nao Ishikawa, with Nagisa Nozaki pinning Myla Grace with the Noir Lancer in 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Tag team match, the champions Mirai and Mai Sakurai defeated Kizuna Tanaka and Koki Amare, with Mai Sakurai submitting Kizuna Tanaka with the STF in 11 minutes and 47 seconds. Tag team match, your semi-main event, Sari and Miko Ueno versus Utami Hayashishita and Nanae Takahashi ended in a 15-minute time limit draw. Of course, that's the match when Nanae sustained that neck injury. And then in your main event, Marigold Superfly Championship match, Natsumi Shozuki, the champion, makes her third successful title defense against Misa Matsui, pinning her with the Kido clutch in 13 minutes and 4 seconds. Mr. Matt Turner, I really enjoyed this card. I thought it was a really, really, really solid card. I thought both the main event and the semi-main event delivered, and I was a big fan of Mirai Saku versus Kizuna Tanaka and Koki Amare as well. But we opened with this match, Victoria Yuzuki and Naho Yamada. What did you think?
This was complete opposite of the day show, where this was a great match that had a great ending, and it didn't wear out its welcome. Less than 7 minutes it went. These two, nothing was wasted. They told a great story, and this set the stage for the rest of the card. The crowd was hotter. The crowd was more into the show. Again, you always want to start your matches out on a really good note, on a hot note, and this was terrific. Again, Victoria Yuzuki has been wrestling like a year. She's terrific, and Naoya Yamada is somebody that I really, really enjoy watching wrestle. And just the few matches that she's had in Marigold. Excellent way to start this show. 3.5 stars for me, my friend.
Yeah, I did enjoy that Naho Yamada was apparently that passionate about her entrance music that her voice broke during the final note, just because she was giving it absolutely everything. Lots of endeavor from Yamada. I don't think anyone truly ever thought that Victoria Yuzuki was losing here, and I don't think Yamada ever felt like she was going to win it. Gave a good account of herself. However, it was just a moment. It was just a matter of time for Yuzuki, who obviously eventually hit the Yuzu Crush for the victory. We move on to this singles match, and Matt, we finally worked out what Hummingbird's finishing move is going to be. And ironically, it's actually the move that I think Hummingbird possibly needs to refine slightly, because other than that, I thought she was smooth. I thought she worked really well as sort of this cocky, arrogant, athletic heel against, you know, babyface Komomo Minami. I just want that splash refined, and I'd be very, very happy. But otherwise, I think another really good, solid undercard singles match.
This was great, considering the fact these two have two different styles. You know, Hummingbird is more of the flashy, the high risk, the high flying style, where Komomo Minami, she likes to work the armbar. She likes the shoot style, the kicks, the submissions, and these two made it work. I thought this was a terrific follow-up to what was a solid opener. I thought this one was, and again, right around the same time, and I had it at the same mark, 3.5 stars. Again, styles make fights, and these two, again, completely different styles, but they made it work. Hummingbird played into Minami's strengths, and Minami played into Hummingbird's strengths. Really, really solid stuff. And again, 7 minutes I thought was the perfect time to get it done. I'm just a huge fan of both these wrestlers, especially Hummingbird. She's really blown me away in just the few matches that she's had in Marigold, partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's got a lot of potential. Like I mentioned, she, you know, obviously she was unfortunate in the way that that Superfly Championship match ended at Korakuen. You know, unfortunately, we mentioned it earlier with Sari and Nanae Takahashi. It's wrestling accidents happen. And, you know, I was interested to see how she would come back. And on these Hokkaido shows, she had two very different matches, where in the tag match, she was grounded a lot by Misa Matsui and Victoria Yuzuki, who made sure that she couldn't do the athleticism. And here, she sort of led the match, and I thought did a very, very good job. Lots and lots and lots of potential there. Completely different to everyone else in the Superfly division. Is an outright Superfly wrestler as well, which is something else we need in that division. And I thought she had really good chemistry with Komomo Minami, who continues to improve and is someone who I will always advocate for, because I think she's tremendous. And again, is another wrestler who's got a lot of upside on this Marigold roster. We move on to a tag team match. And Matt, I mentioned earlier that I'm never going to get sick of Bozilla manhandling people. I don't think we're going to get sick of Nagisa Nozaki hitting the Noir Lancer either, because genuinely, I feel like it's a nuclear finish at the moment. And I don't know if she's just hitting it harder or if it's just being sold better. But good grief, it seems to have been upped in intensity.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Considering the fact that the person setting it up is freaking Bozilla, so I mean
Yeah,
that
true.
really
Yeah.
that helps out. And these two they tagged up on these two shows on the same day. I wouldn't be heartbroken if Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki are next tag challengers. Whoever comes out of that match in Cork, and again, here's your listener retention, folks, for about an hour in. Whoever we're going to preview that Korakuen show at the end of this show, but whoever comes out of Korakuen Hall as the Twin Star Tag Champs, wouldn't be heartbroken if Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki are your next challengers. But ultimately, Mila Grace, God bless her, she's terrific in this match. Now Ishikawa, her fighting spirit and her just she just keeps throwing those forearms on Bozilla, and Bozilla's not budging. And now, God bless her, she's firing them off left and right, is going to basically die on that hill where she's going to keep throwing these forearms to see if I can do something to Bozilla. That didn't happen. That ending stretch with Mila Grace and Nagisa Nozaki was really interesting, literally to the point where Nagisa Nozaki, Mila gets the advantage on Nagisa. She takes her to the corner, goes for that Sky Twister press, and I was thinking, she hits this. This is the finish. This is going to be a big upset. Of course, Bozilla comes, does the German suplex off the second rope onto poor Mila Grace. But that wasn't the end of Mila Grace's night. As you said before, she gets hit with that brutal Noir Lancer. Terrific tag match. 3.5 stars for me, partner.
You mentioned Nagisa Nozaki and Bozilla being next challengers for the Twin Star. I do think it'll be Nagisa Nozaki. Whether it'll be Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki or whether it'll be Nagisa Nozaki and Bozilla, I'm not necessarily bothered either way. I think either way it'll be a very, very good match. And we've already mentioned the Twin Star Championships. We might as well talk about the Twin Star Champions as well, as they take on Koki Amare and Kizuna Tanaka. And I thought this was a really interesting dynamic because you'd got past challenger teaming with future challenger against the champions here. And it made for a really, really good match. And it furthered Mai Sakurai and Koki Amare, but also it furthered Mirai's utter brutal contempt for poor Kizuna Tanaka, who for 2 matches in a row has just been buffeted around the ring by bigger wrestlers.
Yeah, again, partner, you have Kizuna Tanaka in the ring, across the ring, with 2 vets in Mirai and Mai Sakurai, your tag champs. She's only going to get better. Koki Amare, I know that she's not wrestling that long, but boy, howdy, does she wrestle and does she feel like she's been wrestling 5 or 6 years because she feels like such a huge star. And Marigold, again, we talked about with her winning the Noah Championship. Marigold is doing a great job presenting her as a big star. So kudos to them. Kizuna Tanaka, I thought, was terrific here. Her exchanges with Mirai were great. Koki Amare, her exchanges with Mirai took me back just a few months ago toward their fantastic Dream Star match where it was chop for chop, big boot for big boot. Ultimately, though, it was Mai Sakurai locking in that fantastic STF to get the submission win on Kizuna Tanaka. And they did a great job building Kizuna Tanaka up in this match. She does hit the redream on Mai Sakurai, and Sakurai doesn't kick out. It's Mirai that has to come in and make the save, which I thought was very, very important because it could have been, you can tell the story where it's just like, hey, Sakurai, if you didn't have your tag partner help you out here, the young Kizuna Tanaka would have picked up a big, big win here. So I like the fact that she didn't kick out. She needed Mirai to make the save and help her out. And ultimately it was the STF that got the win for one Mai Sakurai. 4.25 stars for me, my friend. This is one of my favorite matches on this tour.
Moving on, then, we move to obviously the match that we have already discussed: Sari and Mikoano versus Utami and Nanae Takahashi. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the injury. We've already talked about it. We've talked about the implications for Korakuen. We've talked about the injury at length. What I do want to say is, because of what we know, I haven't rated the match. I thought the match itself was great. But obviously, with what happens to Nanae, I didn't feel like I could rate it. That's not fair. What I did really like, though, is that we saw Sari in a completely different light in the opening of this match, because she was taking a lot of heat from both Utami, who could potentially be her challenger at First Stream should she retain, and Nanae. And it was Miko Aono who was having to provide the relief. And it's such an unusual position to have Sari in that we're not used to seeing, that it was a little bit jarring, but I was all here for it. So I thought it's a shame that obviously it doesn't lead to anything ultimately at Korakuen, but I thought this would have been the perfect preview match, Matt.
You have a lot of different preview matches you have here. Again, this
Mm.
was set up to be Nane versus Sari, which the injury happens at the end of the match. So you do get a little bit of a preview there. We know, not unless something crazy happens, and it's pro wrestling, it can, more than likely at First Dream, it's going to be Utami versus Sari. So we planted the seeds there. And we say this maybe every other episode when they're across the ring from each other in these matches. Like, oh, we just got a little bit of a teaser, Miko Ano versus Utami. We finally got a little bit more of a teaser. We finally got a little more of an appetizer. We got a few bites at the apple. And boy, howdy, that's a match. That is probably the match I'm looking forward to the most in 2025 for Marigold. You know we're going to get somewhere down the line, Miko Ano versus Utami Hayashishita. Because for me, no disrespect to Nane, because she's great. No disrespect to Sari, because she was great. For me, my favorite parts of this match were the exchanges with Miko Ano versus Utami Hayashishita. And just think what that match is going to look like. My guess probably for a red belt defense, because I think Utami is the way to go into 2025. I agree with you, partner. I didn't rate it because of the injury. Regardless, this was a fantastic match. Great tag match, great chemistry. We did see Sari kind of get grinded down there a little bit. Miko Ano coming in to make the save, which ultimately makes Miko Ano look like the bigger star in this match. Again, terrific match. It's unfortunate with the ending, but I'm glad that Nane isn't as bad as it really could have been. That's obviously the most important thing coming out of this match. And you take those high angle neck bumps, again, especially for somebody that's been working this hard hitting style for the better part of 20 years, it can go horribly wrong. It did go wrong, but not to the point where it was too bad. So again, speedy recovery to Nane, but ultimately this was a terrific match, partner.
Yeah, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it would have got a really good rating from me had the injury not happened. You're absolutely right. We've seen it a couple of times now. We've mentioned it a couple of times now. Utami versus Miko Ano is going to be a money singles match in 2025. Whether that is for the Crimson Red Belt, whether it's for Miko Ano's white belt, should she still have it, whether it's in the Dreamstar Grand Prix, maybe a final. I'm all here for it. I think it's going to be a very tasty match. Moving on then to the main event, which was the Superfly Championship match. Natsumi Shozuki defeating Misa Matsui for the belt. And something that I really liked here, and this was something that was pointed out on the Marigold Twitter, Natsumi Shozuki broke out a brand new finishing move, or a brand new pinfall, should I say. It's called the Kido Clutch, which is apparently a tribute to Mr. Sapporo himself, the late, great Osamu Kido, who is a former IWGP Tag Team Champion with Akira Maeda. And I thought that was a really touching tribute to win the match in Sapporo for him. Overall, though, I'm intrigued to know your thoughts, because we did talk briefly about this before our alternate commentary, about where this stacked up against the Summer Destiny match. Now, for me personally, before I throw to you, Matt, I think it's a completely different match. And I don't mean that in the fact that it's happening at a different time.
You're right though. It did happen a different time, buddy.
Dynamite, absolutely.
Dynamite insight, brother.
Thank you. And to be honest, I might just leave it at that. This was a match that happened at a different time. No, rather than the sort of fast flowing, frenetic opening that we had at Summer Destiny, where basically they were told, here's a stage, go for it. Here it was a lot more calculated, a lot cagier. And actually, you got Misa Matsui, who, with a chip on her shoulder, was the aggressor for a lot more of the match than Natsumi was. And I think it was something that she worked, a style that she worked really well. And the fact that it was ultimately a surprise pinfall, a surprise roll-up variation that gifted Natsumi Shozuki the win, the way that Misa Matsui was just distraught post-match, I think all of it added together to be a very good match. I really loved their match at Summer Destiny. I'm not going to compare them because they are two different matches. Same competitors, different styles, different sort of a different fight, if you like. However, still thought this was a really really good match. And again, I think Natsumi Shozuki has a really good set of shows over this weekend. She's the glue in more than one match. And I think her and Misa Matsui are a very, very, very good pairing, Matt.
Yeah, I thought this was a terrific match, but if you're asking me to compare to the Summer Destiny show, you're right. It is a different match. Same competitor, same championship. So again, you're basic. Again, it's subjective. You can like what you like, but I like the match from Summer Destiny just a little bit more.
Yeah,
I gave that match 4.5 stars. This one I gave 4.25. So again, it's not that big of a
exactly. Yeah.
not that big of a difference.
Which of these
I
two fantastic things do you think is more fantastic, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, both these matches were great. I just liked the match from Summer Destiny a little bit better. I liked how this match ended because she did have the Keto Clutch, which is basically an arm capture roll up, which about a little more than halfway through the match, Natsumi really focuses on Misa's arm, which I thought was interesting because okay, she has the arm bar, she has the kicks to the arm. A lot of her offense is based around her opponent's arm, but you're thinking, considering the fact that Misa Matsui is probably the fastest wrestler in this company, that maybe she should have went to the leg. So I'm kind of watching this thinking, okay, like she does a great job with the Fujiwara armbar, how she gets into it, how she builds to it, how she comes back at it, how she works it. So I thought that was really interesting. But then when she had the arm capture roll up, as soon as she locked it, as soon as she had it, I was like, I hope that's the finish because the psychology would make the most sense. She gets the 3 count. Misa Matsui is basically asking the ref, was that 3? Was that 3? She's protesting to the ref, thinking that she got her arm up on time. So Misa Matsui kicks out at like 3.1, which sometimes I like, sometimes I dislike. You know, when you're a championship match, if you're going to lose in the middle of the ring, lose 1, 2, 3 cleanly. But this makes sense because now you can see Misa Matsui building back up to another championship match, whether that's against Natsumi Shozuki, whether Victoria Yuzuki takes the belt in a match that you fantasy book that I'm all for. This gives Misa Matsui the right to be like, hey, I barely lost here. You know, I didn't even think that I lost. Get her a couple wins, build her back up, because ultimately I think this is the division, at least for right now, that Misa Matsui should be competing in. And we're going to see if it's Natsumi Shozuki's time in the beginning of the year to move up to that white belt scene, because she's challenging for the white belt at Korakuen Hall. Again, we'll talk about it a little bit later. I don't think she's taking the belt, but I think this is something that Rossi's going to look at and say, is Natsumi Shozuki, pardon me, is she somebody that now we can build up into that white belt championship reign or run, or somebody that can constantly challenge? So, and if that's the case, who's going to be the pillar of this division? For me, it's Misa Matsui. Really, really good match. Great psychology. Great back and forth. A 50-50 match. At the ending with the psychology made perfect sense. A really great match to end a fantastic show, brother.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this show. I thought this show was consistently really good and then really ramped up with those final 3 matches. Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we've already said that following this match, we didn't get a Superfly challenge. Instead, we got Natsumi calling out Miku Ono and challenging for the white belt. And I actually thought during her interview, we mentioned about what are your plans for the Superfly Championship. And she actually said, I'm not content with one belt. I want more belts. And we commented on it during our sort of our video dissecting Natsumi's answers. And I thought it was really fun that the fact that less than 2 weeks later, she's challenging for a different belt. So, yeah, I thought that was really good. And again, that match is going to be fantastic. And if they are given 18, 19, 20 minutes, they are going to knock it out of the park in Korakuen Hall. I have absolutely no doubt. Moving on then to the third of the 4 shows we're going to be talking about today. It is the Fantastic Adventure 2024 Night 10, 4th of November 2024, and this emanated from Nagoya International Conference Center. Now, unfortunately, the attendance notes don't read well, and I'll sort of go through them now. It's the 4th time that Marigold have run the venue. It's the first time since the Dream Star Grand Prix finals. The announced attendance of 315 people is the lowest Marigold have drawn to the venue, a 54% decrease from the last time they ran the venue, which of course was the Dream Star final on the 28th of September. It's also a 33% decrease from the previous lowest at the venue, which was 472 as a part of the Summer Goldshine Tour in July. If you want to get even more granular about it, it's also the lowest attendance Nagoya International Conference Center has seen since DDT's Dramatic Survivor show in September 2021. However, to put a little bit of shine on it, Marigold are only the second Joshi promotion to be running that venue. There's only Stardom and Marigold that have run Nagoya International Conference Center over the last 5 years. Now, it's a big venue. Unfortunately, that has positives and negatives. The positives, more people, more prestigious venue, things like that. Unfortunately, the negatives, and this is something that we saw in this show, is that if you don't pull in the crowd, it is very obvious that the show is quite empty. And I thought at different points during this show, Matt, in spite of what was another really, really good show, you could really tell that it was a far emptier show than I think Marigold were expecting.
Yeah, again, put a positive spin on it. This is a really, really good show, and you're still building up your stars. You're still building up your stars. You're reeling from, the blooms off the rose. Marigold was this hot new thing. You had Julia there. You're bringing EO in. We knew eventually, as the weather would start to cool down, that eventually they would be having these problems drawing. Again, Julia's not there. Marigold came in with a bang. I mean, bigger than any, new wrestling company has in quite some time, and they've been absolutely crushing it. And this attendance has no effect whatsoever on, there's no reflection, on just the effort and the great talent that is in Marigold. But at the same time, when you're not drawing, a 55% decrease or whatever you said, partner, eventually that's affecting your bottom line on the income. And they got to get to a point where they need to get somebody else hot to build up with Utami. That's what ultimately goes. They have to start building up the roster, getting somebody hot, maybe bringing somebody in from time to time to help boost up, ticket sales. Regardless, they have a lot of people already in the pipeline. We talk about the Kokiyama Rays, obviously Chika Goto. She was injured. She was on these shows, but not on these shows. She was like the guest ring announcer, and she did a great job. She's so enduring with the crowd. She's somebody that is so over with the crowd. And when she comes back, I think that you'll see some ticket sales jump up. But ultimately, though, no, this was a really, really solid show, and I just hope that they can figure out how to put more butts in seats, as Jim Ross would say.
Yeah, just looking back at the New Year's Golden Garden tour, they're not running the Nagoya International Conference Center at any point during that tour, so that might have something to do with the attendance here. But again, you hit the nail on the head, my friend. Absolutely no indication or no reflection, should I say, on just how good this show was. Because again, another really enjoyable, quick-paced show. Had Japanese commentary as well, which I was not expecting. The card is as follows. The results are as follows. Nao Ishikawa defeats Naho Yamada with the German suplex in 8 minutes and 21 seconds to achieve her first pinfall victory in Marigold, a monumental moment for her. Misa Matsui defeated Kamomo Minami with the Misa Kawai driver in 9 minutes and 2 seconds. Nagisa Nozaki defeated Myla Grace with the rear naked choke in 7 minutes and 49 seconds. Tag team action, Natsumi Shozuki and Hummingbird defeated Celine Flora, Victoria Yuzuki, and Kizuna Tanaka. Natsumi Shozuki pinning Tanaka with a diving double knee drop in 10 minutes and 21 seconds. It was not a good weekend to be Kizuna Tanaka, was it really? And then in your main event, 6-woman tag action, Bozilla, Mai Sakurai and Miko Aono defeated Utami Hayashishita, Mirai and Koki Amare, with Mai Sakurai pinning Koki Amare with...
Say it. She hit it twice in this match.
with the Goodwin Elbow Drop in 20 minutes and 21 seconds. Again, a fantastic show. It is worth pointing out that obviously Nanae was not on this show. Rhea Sato was also still recovering from poor physical condition as well. I do like the fact that Chikagoto has been doing all the preface stuff. I've enjoyed that, and obviously we saw her and Nanae do it in Kanagawa. But I will say, Matt, that it's a little bit of a shame that Nanae wasn't on this card, because the amount of passion in this opening match bordered on unhinged. It was absolutely mental, the volume coming from these two. Now, I know that everyone is going to be talking about this result. And yes, you've been building to now Ishikawa's first singles victory or first pinfall victory. And we all expected it to happen at Korakuen. And I know that both me and you, Matt, said this when it happened. It's like, that's such a weird time to do it. The first match in Nagoya on, just a random end of the Fantastic Adventure Tour show. It doesn't feel right. Why have you done this? Obviously, at the time, we didn't know that Nanae was going to be at Korakuen Hall. Wasn't going to be at Korakuen Hall, which to me makes this result make more sense. What I think, or what I believe, has probably happened is that with now Ishikawa wanting to challenge Sari on Nanae's behalf, she couldn't necessarily do that on the back of all of these defeats and be taken even remotely seriously. So, yes, ultimately, we have had to jump the gun with the result. Unfortunately, wrestling is a living, breathing organism. It doesn't stop because someone is injured. Unfortunately, it continues. So I think that's probably why this result has happened. That aside, I thought these two had really, really, really good chemistry, Matt.
Yeah, I thought they worked really, really well together. A good opener, really good, solid opener, and the crowd was biting on a lot of these near falls from Naoya Ishikawa. It's like she kept getting closer and closer and closer. She does that really cool spot. We've only seen it a few times. I think she needs to break it out more, where she does that cartwheel into the front roll, and I thought like that would have been the finish, and it was just now Yamada just keep on kicking out, keep on kicking. She was like 2.98 and 2.99 and then 2.9998, and it was like so close, so close. I'm like, is she gonna get there? She's finally gonna get there, and she finally hits this beautiful Takayama style German suplex. Which, if she's gonna start winning matches, and she should, Marigold, she should start winning a lot more matches, because now Ishikawa is freaking awesome. She needs to use that German suplex more, because that was a thing of beauty. A great way to get her first win. 3.25 stars for me. I would love to see these two run this match back in like 6 or 7 months when these two have a little bit more experience. But I thought this was a really great match to start off another great show. And again, that Everest style German suplex and now Ishikawa did. Mwah, chef's kiss, thing of beauty.
Are you of the same opinion on the result as me?
At first, I was like, why wouldn't you do it at Korakuen? But before we were chatting yesterday, before we did alternate commentary, and you made perfect sense. It's like, well, you need to build her up to that match with Sari, give her a little more momentum going into that match. So that might be why they did it. And again, you're going to have the people in Korakuen Hall. They love Sari. Don't get me wrong, but they also love an underdog, which now Ishikawa is going into that match. There's going to be a lot more crowd love for one now Ishikawa going in. So now looking at it like that way, yeah, I agree why they did it here.
Moving on then to Misa Matsui and Komomo Minami. And last time Misa Matsui lost the Superfly Championship, or lost a match for the Superfly Championship, she had to almost start from the bottom and build herself back up. And it certainly felt like that's what was happening here. And what I enjoyed was that Misa Matsui brought some of that aggression that we saw in the match with Natsumi Shizuki into this match with Komomo Minami, as though, really almost trying to embarrass Komomo Minami. And I was a big fan of that. Big fan of that, Matt.
Yeah, these two worked really well together. Again, Komomo Minami is somebody again, I say this a lot. You need to you got not just in Marigold and Stardom, just in wrestling in general. If you're a younger wrestler and you have wrestlers more experience on the card, especially if you're a company, you're somebody that has the same, the same roster show in, show out. You need to be wrestling the wrestlers that have the experience. And this is exactly what they did with Komomo Minami, wrestling somebody with the experience and somebody that is higher up on the card than Misa Matsui, because that's how you're going to get better. And these two work terrific together. You have the speed style of Misa Matsui, and you have the hard hitting style that is Komomo Minami. And I mentioned the match with Hummingbird from the show we just reviewed, where this match was a little bit better because I had a little bit more time to tell the story. And I think Misa Matsui, she's a little more fleshed out than Hummingbird. Like her character, her offense, her moveset, and these two worked really, really well together. But ultimately, with just Misa Matsui getting a big win, hopefully building herself back up to another shot at the Super Flyweight Championship. 3 3/4 stars for me, partner. I thought this was Komomo's best outing of these run of shows that we're reviewing.
Which really is an indication of where Komomo Minami is, because I do think that she has put in a lot of hard yards. And actually, almost every time now that we're seeing her in the ring, we are saying some, words to the effect of, this is one of the best performances I've seen from Komomo Minami. Everything does seem to be a lot smooth. That rollover DDT looks so good when she's connecting with it more and more and more and more. Now it's becoming more seamless, and every time she does hit it, it just looks really, really good. So I'm excited to see her utilize that more. In terms of Misa Matsui, I wouldn't be surprised that once we've built Naho Yamada up a little bit, would not surprise me if we see them go for the Twin Star Championships. I don't think they'll win, but elevating them to that point, like we did with Kizuna Tanaka in the Twin Star Championships last time out at Korakuen. I think it could be the same sort of thing with Naho Yamada and Misa Matsui. If you ever wanted to see a murder, this is what it looks like. What I enjoyed about this match, despite Nagisa Nozaki absolutely flattening Myla Grace with the Noir Lancer before she locks in that rear naked choke, is that Myla Grace completely adapted her offense and started targeting Nagisa Nozaki's legs. She'd been pinned with the Noir Lancer the show before, didn't want to get pinned by it again, so tried to take it out. It's simple, but it worked really, really well. To the point where she missed her own Sky Twister press, got hit with the Noir Lancer, but Nagisa Nozaki, because of the damage done, didn't really feel like she'd connected well enough, or that it would be hard enough to keep Myla Grace down, and therefore went to the rear naked choke. And I liked that little story going in. And again, it's another testament to how much progress Myla Grace has made as a performer during this tour.
Yeah, and I like the fact that, again, what does the Noir Lancer work? The neck. What does the rear naked choke go for? You're going to the neck. So I like how you hit that 1-2 punch, and it makes Myla Grace, even in a loss, look so much stronger. The fact that Nagisa Nozaki had to hit that 1-2 punch in order to get this win. Again, Myla Grace is somebody that has improved leaps and bounds since the beginning of Marigold, not only in the ring but her character. Not only with her character. I always say it's one thing to be good bell to bell. It's another thing to be good curtain to curtain, and that's what Myla Grace is. From the moment that she makes her entrance, she's so peppy, she's so poppy, she's so great with the crowd. She's got such great crowd psychology, and even when after whether it's a win or loss, the way when she exits, people still care about Myla Grace and doing a great job building her up, and she's doing a great job improving her game at all aspects of pro wrestling. This was just another solid match, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Myla Grace, after she misses that sky twister press, it's basically Nagisa Nozaki coming for heads with that finish. And boy, howdy, did she ever. 3.5 stars for me, partner.
Moving on to the tag match then, I made a joke earlier about how it wasn't a good weekend to be Kizuna Tanaka, who has been bullied in the last 2 matches. And here I feel like we saw a little bit of frustration bubble over, because she was giving everything in this match. The way that she was attacking, especially Natsumi Shozuki's arms, the transitions into some of those arm bars are always phenomenal to watch. She did one to Mirai flipping out of the Miramare Shock into the armbar. And it's always really cool to see. And she does it here with Natsumi Shozuki on a number of occasions. And I actually think that she was too overzealous in the way that she attacked this match. And that's ultimately what led to her being hit with the diving double knee drop and the loss. But considering this went 10 minutes, I thought they managed to jam pack a lot into this match.
Yeah, I made mention before. I'll make mention it again. Victoria Yuzuki and Kizuna Tanaka is like my new favorite tag team. And considering how much I love tag wrestling and how great tag wrestling has been, especially in Joshi, with Marigold, Sendai Girls, obviously Stardom, and the Sariism shows, I'm loving this team of Victoria Yuzuki and Kizuna Tanaka. And then you're putting them in the ring, across the ring from two wrestlers that have that same style, that Superfly weight style. We've seen Victoria Yuzuki able to hang with that style. Kizuna Tanaka is not too far behind. These two teams worked really, really well together. And if they're going to give Natsumi Shozuki a tag partner, that's not Miko Ano, because I love that team of Natsumi Miko Ano. We've seen them go all the way to the finals of the Twin Star tournament, but they're going to give her a tag partner. I just want to see it be Hummingbird, because they work so well together, considering the fact this is the first match that they tagged, as far as I know, and whether they had a tag match somewhere outside Marigold, that I don't know, but I thought they were terrific together. And obviously the teamwork of Yuzuki and Tanaka is second to none, considering, again, I think the first time they teamed up was at First Dream just a few months ago back in the summer. So terrific stuff from both these teams. I thought, again, yeah, you're absolutely right, partner. A shade over 10 minutes was the perfect time. Natsumi Shozuki putting away, you're right, poor Kizuna Tanaka with the pinfall. But I got a feeling in the next couple years it's going to be Kizuna Tanaka, the one that's going to be getting the pinfalls, not the one looking at the lights in the next few years, because her career has so much upside. And again, this tag team with Tanaka and Yuzuki has so much upside. They really can be one of the best tag teams in all of wrestling in the next 2 or 3 years. Terrific match. 4.25 stars for me, partner.
I mean, I mentioned, obviously, some of the ages of some of the main eventers in Marigold at the moment. It is worth noting that both Victoria Yuzuki and Kizuna Tanaka are 19. So, that's a lot of talent and a lot of time for us to enjoy them, God willing. So very, very excited for that. Matt, a couple of things that don't go together. Okay. Vegemite and fish is one thing that doesn't go together. Darren Chatton will agree that Sunderland and Newcastle don't go together. One thing that really, really does not go together is Bozilla and Miko Ano's music. I've never seen anything more jarring than massive German powerhouse Bozilla coming out to trance pop Miko Ano's theme. I mean, don't get me wrong, Miko Ano's theme is an absolute belter, but seeing Bozilla coming out to "I'm just seeing stars," just what? No, absolutely not. She should only ever come out to her theme. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, but I'll put the Matt Turner positive tweak on it. She should come out. She should come out to Miko Ano's theme if she's under the flying German masked fiesta gimmick, or whatever that her gimmick was, because she came out, and it's all the poppy Miko Ano theme, and then Bozilla's trying to fire up the crowd, but I'm like, she's a heel, but on a babyface team, so it's like she's technically the only heel in this match, and I'm like, whatever, you'll figure it out. You want to hear a fun stat, Rob? And I didn't realize this until you made mention of the time. What was the time on this match, buddy?
This was 20 minutes and 21 seconds.
And it finished with a Goodwin elbow drop. What year did you write your first Stardom book? 2021.
Stop trying to make me feel better about the way this match ended, Matt.
I'm sorry. I can't help it that I'm an upbeat, positive person. How dare I? What a jerk I am for trying to make you feel better.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what you thought about the finish, this was a great match. And we started with Utami versus Bozilla Violence to start out. Again, I got a feeling that is going to be a V2, V3 for Utami in 2025. Utami versus Bozilla has money written all over it for next year. Really cool stuff with the tag champs on opposite ends. I thought that was really interesting, because we've made mention last 2 or 3 weeks. We're starting to see some cracks into the tag champs. We're starting to see the two of them not getting along, making some mistakes, and it almost cost them the titles against Tanaka and Yuzuki just a few weeks ago at Korakuen Hall. So I thought that was interesting, and they have great chemistry together and as well across from the ring from each other. And Koki Amare was just an absolute star in this match. She was terrific as well. But ultimately, it's the Goodwin Elbow Drop that gets the win back from my Sakurai. Terrific stuff here. 4.25 stars. And again, we got a little bit more of Miko Ano versus Utami Hayashishita, partner.
We did. And, we obviously talk about that partnership and how we're excited to see that. I do agree. I think Bozilla versus Utami would be a really good Crimson Red Belt match. It wouldn't, but I think her contract, I'm sure I read that she is locked in for the full year, or is it a year or 9 months? I think it's a year. So it wouldn't surprise me if that title defense. No, I think it's 9 months. Sorry. Which I think maybe if you were to run Korakuen Hall in March and have Utami and Bozilla on top, have Utami win and that be Bozilla's send-off, I think that would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. But it was Mirai and Bozilla that I was really intrigued by, because Mirai is one of the few people on this roster who can believably match Bozilla for power, but also sells it tremendously. Like, there's one moment, and it's the most obscure moment of this entire match, but it just made me feel like Bozilla's power is so real. And it's where Mirai finally manages to get away from her and tries to do a forward roll to get to her tag corner. And she can't complete the forward roll. She does the forward roll and just collapses on the ground. And it's not a comedic thing. It wasn't taken as a comedic thing. It was taken as Bozilla has beaten this woman to such a point where she can't even roll to get to her tag. And I thought that was fantastic. Thought this was such a good match. Again, Mai Sakurai getting a win over Koki Amare. It seems to be those two trading wins ahead of Korakuen Hall. Very, very, very excited to see that, Matt.
Yeah, good stuff.
Moving on then from all of this, we are going to go on to night 11 of the tour, the 7th of November, and that takes us to Kanagawa. It takes us to Horigeo, I believe the actual thing is called. Sorry, my laptop has decided to get rid of my notes off the screen. So bear with me 2 seconds whilst I find them again, because of course it has. Why wouldn't it do that? But yes, something that is going to be talked about in regard to this show is that they drew 175 people. Now, 175 people is their lowest drawing attendance. And this was something that I wanted to talk to you about, Matt, because to me, this is a less, I don't want to say concerning number because I'm not concerned, but I would argue that this is less of an issue for Marigold than the number at Nagoya. And the reason I say that is because Horigeo Public Hall, okay, which is where this show is a smaller venue. It's a noticeably smaller venue. And even with only 175 people in there, it was still loud. It still looked like there was a lot of people in there. So I would argue that even though it's a smaller venue, yes, you're obviously going to draw smaller attendances, but I would rather do that than be faced with the hundreds of empty seats in Nagoya. So even though that, yes, this will go down as Marigold's least attended show in their history, I personally don't see that as a huge problem. What I am excited to see is that they run this venue again in February. February 16th, they run this venue again. I will be very intrigued because I can't find any other promotion that has run this venue. So there's no comparison as to whether this is a dreadful number or if this is a really, really good number. There's no comparison there. I'm really intrigued to see what that February number brings. But overall, it's a smaller venue. The crowd seemed pretty hot throughout, if I'm being honest, and it looked pretty full. I'm not hugely concerned about this, Matt.
No, you made a good point. The crowd was hot. They were into it. They had fun. And I say this all the time. I'm going to say it again. the best form of advertisement is word of mouth. So I'm assuming pretty much all 175 people that left this show with a double thumbs up on how great this show was, how much fun they had. And again, when you're going to go to out for drinks with your friend or at the water cooler at work the next day or talk to, your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, son, daughter, so on and so forth, bring him to the show. Bring him to the show because we're going to have a good time because Marigold puts on a great show. They have great wrestlers in every aspect of pro wrestling, between your high flyers, between your baby faces, your heels, your fiery underdog baby faces, and really solid booking. Marigold is a fantastic wrestling company. They just need to keep at it. They just need to keep knocking down the door. They need to keep knocking at the door at what they're doing. Maybe change a few things up here or there. Maybe add something here or there. That, what that is, I don't know, but they're on the right track. I'm fully entertained by what they're doing. I know you are as well, partners, because I know how busy we are, that if we weren't entertained, we wouldn't be doing this podcast and we wouldn't be talking about Marigold and the glowing terms that they're doing. So, keep doing what they're doing. Eventually they're going to knock that door down that they've been knocking on, and we're going to start seeing bigger attendance numbers, hopefully sooner than later.
Every promotion starts from somewhere. I mean, like, you look at Stardom's early days, they weren't drawing big houses aside from in Korakuen. So, it'll get there. And again, you're always going to have a number that's low. Yeah, it's not great when you've got a number like that. But also, again, I don't know the maximum capacity of this venue. It looked pretty full to me. And again, I suppose in February, when we've got another attendance number, we'll have more of an indication as to what this number's like. In terms of the card itself, then, we open with a tag team match. Myla Grace and Naho Yamada defeated Komomo Minami and a returning Rhea Sato. Myla Grace pinning Rhea Sato in 9 minutes and 4 seconds with her Sky Twister press variation. Singles match, Bozilla destroyed Minami Yuki with the power bomb in 3 minutes and 48 seconds. It was a mercy killing is what that match was. Singles match, Naomi Ishikawa, who apparently now can't stop winning, defeated Nagisa Nozaki, admittedly via DQ, in 8 minutes and 15 seconds when Nagisa Nozaki just thumped her on the head with a chair. Apparently it had enough passion and just decided to hit her with the chair. Misa Matsui and Natsumi Shozuki defeated the team of Miko Ano and Hummingbird, with Misa Matsui pinning Hummingbird with the Misa Kawaii driver. And then in your main event, Kizuna Tanaka, Koki Amare, and Utami Hayashishita defeated the team of Victoria Yuzuki, Mai Sakurai, and Mirai. Koki Amare pinning Victoria Yuzuki with the jackknife, her beautifully athletic jackknife. Big fan of that jackknife. The bridge is perfect in 18 minutes and 57 seconds. Matt Turner, it's good to see Rhea Sato back in action. What did you think of this opening tag?
This match was on fire. This match was terrific. And then there seemed to be a little bit of miscommunication. I don't know if it was Mila and Rio. It seemed to be a little miscommunication where they didn't know where they needed to go for the next spot, where ultimately then they just eventually was just like, okay, let's just take it home. And I made mention of it earlier, and I make mention on every show, when it comes to a tag match where you have younger wrestlers in there, you need to have a veteran in the ring. You need to have a glue that's going to hold this together. I could be wrong, but like the combined experience in this match is like 4 or 5 years. Like between all these wrestlers, there's not a lot of real experience here with these wrestlers. And again, this was terrific. They hit a bump in the road and they just seemed like they couldn't recover. Ultimately, they were just like, okay, let's just take it home. And Myla Grace hits the phenomenal Sky Twister press. I had it at 3.25 stars. Again, this match was so good, and they hit that little bump in the road. But I sing her praises all the time. I'm going to sing them here again. Myla Grace is so good. The way she gets into that Border City stretch, it seems like it's different all the time. And it's innovative. It's great. It's cool. Everything that she does is great. Rhea Sato, she's back. She was great. She's using the cattle mutilation from time to time. And again, Komomo Minami, she was terrific here. Again, 3.25 stars. A good match. And again, smart on these wrestlers that once they hit the bump in the road, that they seem like they got a little bit confused. They just said, let's just take it home and call it a day from there.
But that's what experience does. The more experience these wrestlers have, the more they will be able to right the ship.
1,000%. 1,000%. And you're going to make mistakes. I've seen wrestlers wrestling 10, 15, 16. I mean, geez, I've been wrestling over half my life and I make mistakes, all the time in the ring. It's just, this is how you overcome them, is constant reps. And you're going to have that from time to time. But ultimately, these four, the future is so bright for these four. And I'm so excited to see where they're going to be at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year from now, partner.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. You said there's 5-6 years experience between them, and I would argue that 5.5 years of that are Myla Grace. So again, it will come, and I would rather them make mistakes on these house shows or these tour shows than at Ota Ward City Gym or Sumo Hall or Korakuen Hall. Even this is where you get to make those mistakes and it not ultimately matter that much. Moving on, there's not a lot we can say about this apart from the fact that I don't know who Minami Yuki annoyed in the booking committee to get her put one-on-one with Bozilla, or if that she annoyed Bozilla prior to this match. But goodness gracious me, Matt Turner.
Was it 3 minutes, 48 seconds?
I believe it was 3 minutes and 48 seconds.
Might have went 3 minutes and 30 seconds too long. Bozilla was just in there. She was like a cat playing with her food. She really, and
God, she was, yeah.
Once this match started, you knew what you were going to get. They do a great job with these squash matches, and this was fun. God bless Minami Yuki. Again, squash match, I'm not going to rate it, but good selling from the rookie, and Bozilla looking ever so dominant, and I'm glad she came out to a proper theme that fits her a little better on this show than the last show, partner.
Absolutely. She did put out a tweet that said, "Really, this was so easy," and it's hard to disagree with Bozilla there. Nagisa Nozaki and Nao Ishikawa. Obviously, Nao Ishikawa gets the win via a chair shot to the head from Nagisa Nozaki. Ultimately, the match sort of pales into a little bit of insignificance, really, when you consider the challenge that Nao Ishikawa comes out with. Following this is where she challenges Sari for that match on behalf of Nanae Takahashi. And it does appear like we talked about the hatred that was coming through in the Passion Sisters. And it turns out, or at least that this is where they're going at the moment, it seems to be more a tough love sort of situation, because Nanae is out there with now as she's wrestling, is there with her when she makes the challenge to Sari for this match at Korakuen. So it does appear that actually it's a case of Nanae believing that I've got to be like this for now to achieve her potential, doesn't it?
Yeah, and really good stuff here, because now another easy story to tell. Nagisa Nozaki is one of your true heels in this company, and now Ishikawa is your underneath babyface that finally got her first win. She's finally over the hump, and she gets Nagisa Nozaki, again, somebody that's been on a roll for the last 2 or 3 months. He gets Nagisa Nozaki so flustered in this match that she has to bring in chairs. She's trying to distract the referee, and then she actually hits the referee, and I'm like, that should be a DQ. And then she hits a chair shot and then hits the referee again. And they called for the bell, and I literally did a fist pump in the air. I'm like, yes, following the rules. That's what I like. That's because at first she hits the referee, and I'm like, why isn't there a DQ? It's not like it was a ref bump, like she went for a shoulder tackle and now moved. Like, she blatantly hit the referee, like, call for disqualification. Then eventually the ref has enough and throws this match out. It was a solid enough match. 2 hard hitters in Marigold that, again, you break the rules, you got to pay the consequences. Ultimately gets the DQ. Now Ishikawa, 2 in a row, my friend. 2 in a row. Can she shock the world this Thursday in Korakuen Hall and defeat Sari? What if she defeats Sari by a count out? So this way she'll have a pinfall, a disqualification, and a count out. Oh, I will be a happy Matt Turner. Happier than I usually am, buddy.
You would bloody not, and you know it. Stop lying, Matt.
3.5 stars for me, partner.
Moving on, then, semi-main event. Mika Wano and Hummingbird, Natsumi Shozuki and Misa Matsui. As good as they are as rivals, Natsumi Shozuki and Misa Matsui, they are potentially even better as tag partners. They've got such good chemistry, haven't they? And we obviously, the whole point of this is to preview Mika Wano and Natsumi Shozuki. And again, if they are able to deliver on what we know they can, it's going to be such a good match. I'm so excited.
Brother, what was the time on this match? I don't know if you gave it or I just missed it.
I will have to reignite my
Oh,
notes.
no problem. Don't worry about it, buddy. You're absolutely right. The main crux of this match is we're getting the appetizer for the Korakuen Hall main event for that pure white belt championship. And they did a great job starting this match out with the two of them with a kick exchange, because those are two of their big weapons. Obviously, we know Miko Ano trains at the K1 dojo. Natsume Shizuki, she has blistering kicks as well. Misa Matsui and Hummingbird as kind of the side pieces of this match. Again, the main crux of this match is you're building up anticipation. You're trying to sell tickets for your big Korakuen Hall main event, and they did a great job with that. But Misa Matsui and Hummingbird, they were terrific in this match as well, using their speed, using their styles. Some really great tag work. You made mention it with Misa Matsumi and Natsume Shizuki. They're great opponents and they're great tag partners, because we've seen them tag before in a couple other tag matches, and they have great chemistry, whether they're on the same corner or they're looking across from each other in the ring. And again, Hummingbird, I think she fits in well with this roster. She's something completely different, because she's the only one that wrestles with a mask, and she wrestles that high explosive lucha style offense that fits in well with all these wrestlers. You know, you throw Kizuna Tanaka in, you throw Utami in, who can work with anybody. Victoria Yuzuki, I think her style fits in perfectly here with Marigold, and I'm glad that looks like she's going to be part of this roster going here on out. Misa Matsui is the one that gets the win over Hummingbird. I would love to see them have a singles match, because they were great as well. 3 3/4 stars, my friend. Terrific stuff that lead into our all-star main event.
And speaking of that main event, Matt Turner, what else can you say? Look at who is in the ring. Fantastic match again.
You know, we made mention how the show prior had the tag champs on opposite ends, and we have the tag partners on opposite ends here. It's really cool to see from time to time. You know, not only that, but you're getting Yuzuki and you're getting Tanaka main event on a really good show like this. But it's really cool to see them interact. But ultimately, very much like the semi-main event, the main event is to sell more tickets for Utami and Koki versus Mirai May Sakurai. You know, your tag team championship match going into Korakuen Hall. I thought this was terrific, and I liked how we're seeing tag team chemistry, tag teamwork with Utami and Koki. We've seen a little bit, but this was really to drive it home. Like, no. We have some really great tag team chemistry, with Utami hitting the German suplex that ultimately leads Koki Amare to hit, as you call that, athletic jackknife for the 3 count. I saw some people saying how much they like this match and how much they love the chemistry with Utami and Koki Amare. Somebody even told me that Utami has now found her new Saya Kamatani. And I just said, whoa. Everyone just pump the brakes here. Koki Amare is great, but we're talking about Saya. This isn't Aphrodite 2.0, folks. But regardless, the fact that people are starting to say that, that's a great feather in the cap of Koki Amare. The fact they're already comparing her to Saya Kamatani, and I think that's really cool. Really excited for their match coming up in Korakuen Hall, and this match again was just a little bit of a preview. My favorite match on this show, brother. 4 stars for me.
So that does bring us to an end of the review segments of this match, or this podcast, should I say. But there are 2 things left. And the first, of course, is to fully review, or fully preview, should I say, the Korakuen Hall card. First things first, before we do, Matt, before we go into sort of detail with these matches, do you see any title changes in the 2 title matches?
No, sir, I do not. Just because I think Utami is going to win the red belt. However, that's not saying much. We just did a alternate commentary where Utami had about 94 belts. But no, I think it's still going to be Mai Sakurai and Mirai that retains, and I think that Miko Ano will retain the Pure White Belt Championship. I know what you're going to ask me, because you always ask me this whenever there's multiple championships on the line. If one belt will change, which one will it be? To me, I think it'll be the tag belts. I think that one has the better shot of changing hands.
Agreed. And I think Mirai Saku have been great as Twin Star champions. I think they were the Twin Star champions that needed to be the first champions to lend the belts a little bit of credibility. We've seen fantastic matches with those belts. You know, Celine Flora, for example, the latest one, another great one. So a really good one against the Twin Towers. But I'll be glad, and this is going to sound really horrible, and I don't mean it to. I'll be glad when the belts are off Mirai Saku, because then you can start putting them into singles programs in Korakuen Hall without the Twin Star Championships being tied up as well. So I'll be glad when, we've got a different team holding those belts so that we can insert Mai Sakurai into that United National Championship picture on the same card. We can insert Mirai into that Marigold World Championship picture, or indeed the United National Championship picture, if that's where you want to go with it. So I don't think that here is the time it will happen. But I do think that come first stream, it would not surprise me if they lose them. Let's go through the card then. Hummingbird and Naho Yamada. Obviously, Naho Yamada, really good opener for Marigold because he offers that something that a little bit different in terms of her entrance. However, I think with what happened with Hummingbird at Korakuen Hall last time, with the mistake that led to the withdrawal as a precaution, I think it would be good for Hummingbird to get a victory here and sort of cleanse herself from that, don't you?
Yeah, I'm assuming this one's going to be the opener, and I always make mention. I'm going to make mention it again. I think for the fourth time on the show, you have to start your match out with a hot opener, and I think this one's going to be a hot opener. But I completely agree with you. I think Hummingbird is going to get her hand raised in this one, partner.
Ryo Saito Minami Yuki, which is the other option as your opener. Again, Minami Yuki has improved a lot. I still think that she needs to, as I mentioned before, needs to improve those strikes. That's the real area for her. And Ryo Saito, I feel, is the stronger wrestler and the way that it'll go in this one.
I completely agree. I think Ryo Saito is going to get the win, probably with the cattle mutilation, my friend, because Bryan Danielson's retired, so you may as well do it in Korakuen Hall.
And as we know, Ryo Saito, known as the Bryan Danielson of Marigold, the parallels are unreal. Moving on, Celine Flora versus Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki. I have made no secret of the fact that I think Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki will be the next challengers. I think they will challenge at Korakuen Hall, and I actually think it will be them that dethrone Mirai Saku for the Twin Star Championships because they'll cheat, because they're big, dirty heels. I think here Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki defeat Celine Flora simply because, in my eyes, this is almost an impromptu or an unofficial, should I say, Twin Star Championship #1 contendership match, Matt.
You make a really good point. This one might be the toughest to call. Obviously, I would not be heartbroken with a Tanaka and Yuzuki win here. I may mention how much I love these two as a tag team. But yeah, Chiaki versus Nagisa Nozaki, getting the win and then challenging the winners of the tag team championship match later on the night. And the fact that your next Korakuen Hall show, I believe, is, you said, the 26th of December? Mm-hmm. So why not do it there, do the title change there, and then maybe do a Mirai versus Mai Sakurai match at First Stream? You can kind of maybe break them up the day after Christmas. Terrible holiday season if that's the way they go about it, but it would make sense. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tanaka and Yuzuki get the win here. But it does make sense for Nagisa and Chiaki to get the win, and then they would come out and be the next challengers for the tag team championships.
Yeah, I think the only way that Celine Flora win, for me anyway, is via DQ, like we saw with Nagisa Nozaki and now with Ishikawa. I still think that your match at Ota Ward is going to be Miko Ano and Mai Sakurai for the white belt. I think that Mirai and Mai Sakurai will be a singles match, but I think you are trying to draw numbers at Ota Ward. I think Mai Sakurai and Miko Ano could be the match to help with that. Bozilla and Myla Grace versus Misa Matsui and Komomo Minami. I think Bozilla and Myla Grace because it's Bozilla, quite honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And tell you what, I wouldn't be heartbroken if they're the next challengers. I'm all about Myla Grace getting a championship match. I would not be heartbroken if they're the next challengers. But yeah, I totally agree because it's Bozilla. You're not beating her in Korakuen Hall 2 shows in a row. And that ultimately means Myla Grace gets the win. And what a great finish they could do with Bozilla maybe hitting the drill hole pile driver, and then Myla Grace hitting the Sky Twister press, and then Bozilla's like, no, I want to get the win. Then she hits the Liger Bomb. Like, what an absolute, like, ultimate, like, total,
I
like,
like that,
Mortal Kombat 2 fatality that would be. But I totally agree. I think the team of Bozilla and Myla Grace, who they have great tag team chemistry together, by the way, I think they pick up the win here.
Sorry, and now Ishikawa. I know the way your heart is going with this one.
Count out, passion, count out, passion, count out. Even if they're on the outside for more than 10 seconds, I can be, come on, ref, count. But no, it's gonna be Sorry that gets the win. But I hope everybody that if you're watching this live or when you do watch it, send me a tweet and just be like, Matt, that should have been a count out win for Now Ishikawa, so we can further that one man story in my demented mind.
Do not encourage him. Yeah, I think this is Sorry. I think she's going to flatten Now Ishikawa, but I think Now Ishikawa is going to look not necessarily strong in defeat. I think she's going to get an incredible amount of support in defeat, definitely. We've already sort of given our views on the 2 title matches, but just to get our thoughts on tape, Twin Star Championships match, Mirai Saku versus Utami and Koki Amare. We've both got the champions.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Yep, I think the champions retain.
And then Miku Ano versus Natsumi Shozuki United National Championship match. We both got Miku Ano.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what do you think main events? You still think they're going to put the white belt on as the main event?
Yes, I do. I think you perhaps a little old-fashionedly, I think that singles matches should always main event, singles titles anyway. You are trying to sort of package both the Crimson Red Belt and the Pure White Belt as two almost on the same level as one another. You've got a chance here to elevate that United National title more than it has already. If I was to ask you who you think, so assuming obviously we've got one more Korakuen, if you were to have a challenger for the United National title for Korakuen before going on to First Dream, who do you think is that challenger?
Nanae Takahashi or Misa Matsui.
Misa Matsui's a decent shout,
What about you, Party? That's a great question. So you're talking about the 26th. So say Nanae is going to lose on the 12th, but then again, she still holds in that back pocket that Miko Ano didn't beat her in the Dream Star. They went to the TLD. You're in Korakuen Hall. Nanae always draws in Korakuen Hall. You get Miko Ano a big win there to end her year. You want to build her up again. We need to build bigger stars. You build her up going into First Dream. I think that would be a perfect way to go about it. But I just think as far as like a match that I would want to see, Misa Matsui versus Miko Ano.
I love that idea. I think Myla Grace is the new challenger for Natsumi Shozuki. But if they run if they do the title match at Korakuen, I think if they go straight through to First Dream, I think it'll be Yuzuki versus Natsumi Shozuki.
I'm sorry, pardon. Did you ask me who was? I thought you asked me who was challenging Miko Ano. Did you ask me who's challenging Natsumi?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No. I like your card. I like your card too, and I want to see it.
Yeah, I think Misa Matsui as a white belt challenge, I think would be perfect. I do genuinely think that they are building towards Mai and Miko Ano, because Mai Sakurai does have that win over Miko Ano, or the time limit draw, should I say, from the Dream Star. So there obviously is something there. And if you think that your top 3 matches could potentially be for First Dream, Sari versus Utami, Miko Ano versus Mai Sakurai, and Victoria Yuzuki versus Natsumi Shozuki, and that's without someone like Mirai in the top. And then you could have Mirai come out and challenge the winner of the white belt match. Very, very, very exciting. Very, very, very exciting. Moving on then, Matt, and it's our final segment, and you know what segment it is. You know what time it is. Matt, it's time to take a gaze at Julia.
We are going to take a gaze at Julia in the legendary ECW arena as NXT runs the ECW arena.
EC Dub.
You damn right, buddy. You damn right. So NXT and Stardom both selling out the ECW arena in the same year. That's an absolutely fantastic accomplishment. And this was the main event of this show. 10-woman tag: Julia, Steph Vacker, Jordan Grace, Kalani Jordan, which did get me confused with Jordan and Jordan when I was doing my notes, and formerly known as Delta, now known as Zahara. I think I'm saying that right. Zahara, to take on the all-heel team of Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and of course, Fatal Influence. This crowd was, I didn't see this entire show. This crowd was so hot as soon as the bell rang. Kalani Jordan hits a series of drop kicks. Steph Vacker comes in with a huge high cross body as the baby faces are just shining up on the heels right from the get-go, and the crowd is eating it up. Roxanne Perez and Julia, they have a great throwdown. These two have great chemistry together, great energy in the ECW arena, and that's what you want in that building, folks. Really great stuff. Zahari comes in, stiff headbutts to Jane. Eventually, we get a 10-woman strike fest, which everyone starts chanting, "This is awesome" in women's wrestling. This leads into a whole bunch of dives with Kalani Jordan hitting a moonsault to the floor. We do see Fatal Influence after the dives. After you have your big hot spot, they start to slow it down. They really put some old school psychology in here. We have Fatal Influence basically do a 3-on-1 beatdown to pretty much to Kalani Jordan. You're building up heat. Eventually, we get a hot tag into Jordan Grace, the other Jordan. She comes in, does what she does best, just a powerhouse, suplexing everybody. She's a double suplex, German suplex. She's just absolutely on fire. Then we get the waterfall finishes, which is basically every single wrestler hitting one big move after another. It closes out with the glorious driver from our beloved Julia to Roxanne Perez. Eventually, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, they hit double dives. Zaharia goes for a spear onto Roxanne Perez, but she accidentally spears Jordan Grace, and then kind of looks like, whatever, I don't care, which is something very interesting. Roxanne Perez, being the vet that she is, tries to take advantage. She goes for pop rocks. However, Zaharia, being the beast that she is, blocks the pop rocks from the champion, hits a brutal F5 in the middle of the ring to pick up the 3 count, thus giving Team Julia the win in what was an absolutely fantastic match. Again, the crowd energy in the ECW arena. Rob, you were there for the Stardom show. From the moment the bell rang, that crowd was hot. Whenever I would go to the ECW shows back in the 90s, the crowd in that building was always hot. Some of those great Ring of Honor shows, they were there from match 1 all the way to the end. The crowd was so hot for this match again. Considering the fact this is NXT's on absolute fire right now. This is their first venture into the ECW arena. To have this match main event and for the crowd to be chanting halfway through women's wrestling, and the crowd for me got the highest peak when Julia and Roxanne Perez were having their throwdown. So that is something that I hope that we come back to sooner than later, because we want our former world champion in Stardom to be the world champion over at NXT, because it is called, folks, as you see on the left-hand side of your screen, a gaze at Julia.
A gaze. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. That does bring us to an end of this episode of the Marigold Standard. We will be back. We don't know when. It will be next week at some point. Obviously, Matt Turner has decided to swan off to Austin, Texas, so will not be available to record. So everyone chastise him at your leisure. We'll be here to record it at some point next week. It will be live. We will also be here, obviously, doing the Stardom cast as well. We'll sort of get that out and the schedule out on Monday next week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, consider subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. A comment and a 5-star review really, really does help us out. If you haven't already, also maybe think about subscribing to our Patreon if you like all of these episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. Patreon.com/The Stardom Cast. You can find us on the website, www.thestardomcast.com. You can find us on social media at Marigold Podcast. And you can also find me on Twitter at Real Rob Goodwin. Mr. Matt Turner, where can they find you apart from in Austin, Texas next week? And sign us off, good sir.
You will not find me in Austin, Texas. You will find me in Dallas, Texas, home of the Von Erichs. It's so funny because Rob has asked me, I think, twice a week for the last 3 or 4 weeks, when are you going? When are you going to Dallas? So I think he has the dates right. He just has the location wrong. But regardless, he's got the
It was going to
state.
be New Orleans when I said it last time. So, yeah, don't worry.
At least you have the state. But, you think of Texas, you think of Stone Cold Steve Austin. So there you go, buddy. But
exactly.
Anywho, folks, we will figure out our recording schedule, whether we have to record at a different time or whether we have to Frankenstein the episode together. I'm only going for 3 days, so we shall figure out when we're recording again. We appreciate everybody's patience with that. Anywho, folks, questions, comments, suggestions, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. You want to shoot me an email. The email address is thestardomcast22@gmail.com. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for another fun-filled episode of the Marigold Standard. We greatly appreciate your support. Can't do without you. Because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when all is together, everyone's different. Everyone's special.